You know what? Nobody's trying to kill me. My wife is home.
Okay,
We're good.
That's good.
We're good. I'm safe. It was just my wife. Nobody's going to kill me.
Is that a fear you have constantly? Is that someone's going to break into your house and try to end your life? You watch too much true crime stuff.
No, not really. Not really. But I don't know. It's just funny to imagine that, like, eventually I'm just going to not care because my dog is, like, barking at everyone. So, like, I'm never going to be able to tell if there's a murder.
Your dog is crying wolf.
Yeah, he's crying dog. He's a crying dog.
Barking dog? Barking wolf? How does that work?
Well, for dogs, it's all barking, so he's just the bark, 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 bark.
Welcome, everyone.
Foolish mortals.
Welcome to the Not So Common Podcast. Alongside Alex Fastiani, I'm Pat Contry.
Bing, 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 bong.
We're back in less than a month this time. Only a little more than a fortnight.
I know, dude. Did you just say Fortnite to trigger me, bro? Because
no, I'm using.
That's one of my phrases, bro. I just get fired up when you say Fortnite, man.
I wonder what percentage of Fortnite players know that Fortnite was actually a word.
Just means
in
2
the
weeks.
lexicon before it was a game title.
The funny thing is, do you think anybody remembers the forts in Fortnite? Is the real question.
Which they quickly got rid of, or they
do you
still
know
have?
me and Jirard back in the day? We were like the first brand deal ever for Fortnite. I think ever, maybe like first or second brand deal ever. We had like a flag that you could have for your clan.
I mean, it's been popular since what, like 2018 or 19? 19 is when it got hot, right?
Yeah, I maybe even before that, but it was like, I remember meeting the guy and he was like so happy because it was like this passion project that had been kept alive by fans who really wanted this like zombie, like weather, like open world fort game. And they were so excited. And then like as an afterthought to compete with PUBG, they put this other game mode in there and just like, he got like the monkey's paw version of like rich and famous. You know what I mean? His creation was destroyed.
I just think it's funny that this is the first time you've brought up Jirard at all, and everyone's going to be clamoring for you to say more, but you are not. But talking about Fortnite, that's the first reference.
I did spend 10 years of my career on his show. Like it's not like that didn't occur. You know what I mean? Do I want to sit and chat about my personal life with a bunch of strangers? No, fuck off. But
oh man,
it did occur.
The clickbait I could go. Alex speaks out about Jirard, and it's just you just saying, "Yeah, we got a Fortnite deal 6 years ago."
It was a long time ago. I feel like it was longer than that. 2019.
I'm so tempted to do the clickbait. Oh, people would want my head.
Please do not do that.
Oh boy, there'd be pitchforks outside my house. Anyway,
I feel like Fortnite is much older than 2019. Am I crazy?
No, but that's when it blew up because that's when they added the battle royale mode about. It was like
I feel like the battle royale mode came like month 5, and then it was just that was the game.
No, the game was out for I believe years at that point, and then they added the battle royale, and that's when it blew up. That's what everyone plays.
Well,
I remember. It was right before COVID really hit, so it was a Christmas party, my realtor's Christmas party or holiday party, which I think is going to be this weekend, 2019. Me and Frank were there, and that was. The game was blowing up, and I remember seeing kids doing the dances. Like 10, 8-year-old kids are doing the Fortnite dances in person. That's where I'm like, okay, now it's a phenomenon. Now it's a cultural thing. I'm seeing kids in public do it.
Oh, yeah.
I forget what dance they were doing. I forget
the
which
floss.
one.
This one.
Yeah, they were doing the floss. They're doing the floss, and then maybe one other one. I don't know if they were doing the L dance, if that was on there yet. But that's when I was like, okay, this is going to be a hit. Again, thanks to Unreal Tournament and the Unreal Engine that they don't give a shit about. But we're going to have an Amazon episode about Unreal Tournament to come out in a week. So there you go.
Finally, and one about that game that's like already been like canceled or something. Like the Sony game is like one
Concord.
of the episodes.
It's going to be an episode about Concord. Yep.
Which is like kind of funny, kind of sad.
Oh, Fortnite's going to have 2 Unreal Tournament skins added to it. So people are like, oh, does this mean Unreal Tournament's back? It's like, no, maybe not, but no one knows Unreal Tournament that plays Fortnite.
You know who would really do well with Unreal Tournament as an IP, I think, is just Xbox. They could do something because it just has that sort of like, it has that like Xbox.
Arena shooter, hardcore.
Like the big shoulders, the fleshy, meaty sounds. There's something very... It reminds me of my time as an Xbox boy.
Well, it's Gears of War. The characters are the Gears of War characters are Unreal Tournament characters.
Yeah, but the Gears of War characters don't look like they're wrapped in like cellophane and like something about the Gears of War characters. They cross some like line of uncanniness where I believe that like each of them is a person with a personality. But in Unreal, I'm like, these guys like the fun to me about them is like it feels like Smash TV, but like even dumb, like bigger, dumber Smash TV.
It's over the top. There's weird alien characters.
I love that shit.
It's a little over the top Unreal Tournament, which is part of the pastiche of futuristic sort of gladiatorial combat for the masses.
Gears of War is too realistic to me for like I want the cartoons. I want the meat. I want the meat.
Then that Secret Levels episode is going to be up your alley. I hope that Epic can put aside 0.001% of their profit to finishing up the Unreal Tournament game from 10 years ago they let die. That was basically
Dude, it's a home run. It's a home run.
Like the engine is done and perfect. People are like, oh, this engine's great. It still looks good 10 years later.
Before everybody who remembers Unreal Tournament is like a geriatric old person whose like body can't play a game like that anymore.
Oh, fuck off.
Please
I would still kick ass nowadays at a first person shooter.
I still can. I still can play. I play boomer shooters all the time. I'm still.
It's not a boomer shooter. Unreal Tournament.
It kind of is.
No, it is. No, it's not, because there's jumping and wall jumping and dodging. It's absolutely. What the fuck do you think Fortnite's based off of?
Doom has jumping.
No, it doesn't. Doom does not have jumping. Doom is the definition of a boomer shooter where you run around, you strafe, and just have one primary function for your weapon, and that's it. That's a boomer shooter.
I think boomer shooter is a broader term than that.
No, it's not. You are absolutely wrong. And Unreal Tournament is basically broke away from boomer shooters and the original Unreal. But by the time you got to Unreal Tournament 2004, you had double jumps, you had wall jumps and dodges. It was a lot more complex, and you had secondary weapons, which revolutionized first-person shooters.
The fact that you kind of like fly around to me.
Yes.
Like, but now if you look at what boomer shooters have become, like that's kind of what they are. No, they kind of reverse went back. I'm not making shit up.
You're making
like,
shit up.
Look at Dusk. Look at Quake. Like they all kind of like reversed back onto becoming Unreal Tournament. I don't know. Like to me, part of the fun of boomer shooters now is like mobility. Anyway.
All right. We'll agree to disagree. How was your Thanksgiving?
I argued less at my Thanksgiving than we just did right now. It was great.
So that's good then.
It was the first Thanksgiving where my wife's family and my family like did it at the same place because they're all local. So it's kind of like natural that we could like do that because we're like relatives, right?
Okay.
It's like normal. But it was good. And we had a lot of food. Like we brought 2 turkeys. Like my dad made a turkey and Kelly's mom made a turkey. There was just a buttload of food.
There's always, to me, when you have more than one turkey, they're usually prepared differently, obviously, unless you have like 25 people at a Thanksgiving.
Right. Well, we did, but they also were prepared differently.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there's always this pressure, like one turkey is going to be left out in the cold, so to speak. It's like, well, I feel bad for that person if everyone, this one turkey's great, but the second one that's experimental, we'll take a drumstick off, but we're not going to really get into the white meat that much. It's a little, I feel these weird things about food events like that.
I get that. I know what you mean. Like, I feel like, do you ever, like when it's time, like there's this moment at like a family gathering, right? That I feel like happens where like the clarion call comes out. Like they're like, it's like time for dinner. Everybody like looks up on the mountain and there's like smoke and it's like time.
There's smoke.
There's smoke on the mountain. It's time to go line up.
Gondor?
Yeah. Get your plate and like go line up in the long line. I always do the thing where I kind of like hang back and I like just kind of wait and I'm like, they'll get there eventually. And then when I eventually do walk up, because I'm usually that asshole who's like playing Game Boy or talking to somebody outside and drinking a beer or whatever. And I'll just like wait till the line dies down. Even in under my own roof. I don't give in to the hype.
The hype of what? Getting food? Like, what's the hype?
Yeah. Like, are you a guy at the Thanksgiving dinner who like gets up and like you're like, bang, you're first in line. You've been waiting to eat.
No.
Are you the guy who's in the kitchen who's cooking, or are you the person who's like waiting until the very end to go scoop and get your plate?
I'm like medium. I don't want to be first. I don't want to be last. And that's the same for any buffet or like when you get in line for something. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be first. And it seems like I grew up like very overweight. Fat. I was made fun of. So that was always stuck with me. Well, you don't want to be too aggressive going for the food. You don't want to be seen as a slob in my head. So that's still, even though I'm in shape now, that always carries with me where it's like, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to seem like you're only here for the food. So you want to wait until you're like, third, fourth, fifth. So you want to, then you'll get in, you slide in there. But maybe it's more for events where you don't want to be last because all the good food is picked through by then.
Okay, so that's the other question that I was going to ask you is like, say we're 75% of the way through the line, and that's where you're at midway, maybe like 65% of the way through the line, right? And something good, like maybe the yams were done, like the yams are gone. Like, is this an injustice or is that like a risk that you run?
That's not. See, that's the thing. Like if it's a private meal, I think that people know how many people are coming and will prepare that. I've never seen, at least on a first pass, a side being gone. I've never personally seen that. That means someone took way too many yams than they should have, and that's like a food crime to me. Like, well, you should never take too much on the first pass for a side.
I agree.
Like you should quickly do side math in your head and be like, okay, well, here's the cranberry bowls. Yeah. And you should know and find out, are there more before you go at it? If there's more, you can take more. That's not in that little bowl. You should always be cognizant of the sides and how many people are behind you. That's just me. I do math in my head. I do food math.
So that's another reason to go last for me is because as I also
less pressure, less
yeah,
math.
I also grew up overweight, right? Like I feel like when I'm at the end, like, okay, already, like I'm willing to sacrifice because you're right. Like a side doesn't normally go on the first run. Like I had big family parties. I have big local family. So like sometimes, there'll be like 3 different people who brought yams. So you want to get Uncle whoever's yams and you don't want to like get stuck with the bad yams. But, like there's some of that. But like waiting till the end, I'm never disappointed with my plate. I don't have to worry about taking, too much of anything because everybody's already had their go. And I feel good. I can do whatever I want at that point. We're in the nexus at that point.
I think the second round is where all bets are off and you can go at it more with sides because not everyone goes for seconds. So that's where you're like, okay, I can hone in on what I want and see what's left, and you won't feel like you're shortchanging anyone on sides.
Yeah, that's the stuffing monsters time is the second round when you can finally start being a fucking disgusting fucking freak and get all the stuffing and gravy that you want.
I don't need castigation about me liking dressing.
It's more like I'm castigating myself. Like it's more like my own thing. Like first of all, we got into an actual debate about this at Thanksgiving because I was talking about what's on my plate at Thanksgiving. What do I like if there's not enough space on the plate, like what needs to be on the plate. And
I make space. I've been laughed at events where there's like 8, 9 different sides. I have to have everything on my first plate. I don't care if it's mounded. I don't care. I want a sample of everything on that plate for the first round.
I understand that mentality and I respect it, but more our thought was like, what is Thanksgiving dinner? Because I started talking about ham. And that was like the first stone thrown. Like that became like the war was like, okay, like Thanksgiving, undeniably we can say, I think turkey is at Thanksgiving. I think gravy is at,
unless you're vegetarian.
No, I'm just saying like, I think we all agree as Americans that Thanksgiving has turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy. I think those things are.
Oh, I don't know anything about mashed potatoes. I think you have to have dressing or stuffing for sure.
All right, let's say turkey and gravy for sure.
Yes,
because turkey makes
or dressing. Gravy. Absolutely. Yeah. Those 3 things to me.
Yeah, and then dressing and stuffing is like dressing and stuffing are basically the same thing.
No, like they're not. Remember, right. Stuffing's in the turkey, dressing's outside. You prepare it differently.
But true, but I'm just saying like that.
But same basic ingredients.
That dish is always there. Because
I've been to events that had both dressing and stuffing. You doubled up on it. So okay.
And a bunch of people call it stuffing no matter where it came from.
Correct. Even if it's not stuffed in the turkey, they call it that.
So it's like the cottage pie versus the shepherd's pie. It's like
a shepherd's ingredients.
A cottage pie is beef. A shepherd's pie is lamb. Yes. So if you're having a fucking shepherd's pie with ground beef in it, no, you're not. It's a classic.
Okay, so those are the things we agree on. You have a stuffing / dressing, a turkey and gravy. Okay.
But then where do we go from there? I feel like next is definitely mashed potatoes.
No,
cranberry sauce maybe.
Cranberry sauce is next.
Yams
for sure. Yams or sweet potatoes. I've been
more than regular potatoes.
In my experience, you don't have both. You only have yams or sweet potatoes.
We always have both, but I think it's just because everybody loves mashed potatoes in the entire world.
That's just my experience because when I went to Ian's, there was not yams or sweet potatoes, but there was mashed potatoes, and they were delicious. So, but more likely than not, I think it's traditional, at least in my household or my family growing up, where you'd have, let's just say, a darker potato variety or yam. A yam is
I
not
think
a-
it's, you know what I
yeah.
think it is? I think it's harvest vegetables. So I think
Yes,
that's why
exactly.
that's
Because my
the
mom would
notion.
make a butternut squash like souffle thing that was delicious with
Yeah.
like pecans on it and a syrup, and it's like, wow, that takes the place of the candied yams that some
Right.
people would have. You know,
Exactly. I get that.
so there you go.
That,
See,
that sits with me. But what
a
about ham?
harvested fall.
Yeah.
There
But
you
what
go.
about the ham? What about the potatoes? Like green bean casserole is one that I always see at Thanksgiving.
That's not uncommon to see that. Some people have to have like corn, like
Mhm.
you know, like a corn, either like just the giblets,
Yeah,
or
that
like
seems
cream
seems
corn. But
seems wild to me, but I get it.
That's not wild to me because corn.
It's a new world crop, right? Like corn.
Yes, and
Yeah,
that's
it
where
works.
Thanksgiving came from. So it kind
Yeah.
of makes sense. Ham to me, once you get into different alternative proteins, that's an offshoot conversation because growing up, we almost never had ham.
Yeah.
But I knew my friends did or my cousins did. So like to me, that's like a maybe a cultural choice, or that's something else. Maybe that depends on the number of people, because if you only have 8 people, there's not enough. There's way too much protein on one turkey, like a good sized turkey for like 8 people. But if you have 16 or 20 people, you're going to need another protein source. So then getting a second turkey or a ham makes a lot more sense to do that.
I agree with that. Like I would be wilded out if I showed up at a Thanksgiving and there was no turkey, but there was a ham.
I'm sure
Like-
that's happened though, because
Yeah.
ham's a lot easier to prepare. You know, hams you have to like heat up in the oven for 20 minutes. They're already pre-baked when you buy like a big old ham. So I can see some people saying, I don't want to fuck with the turkey that takes 8 hours to cook. Last
Yeah.
minute, I'll just get a ham. I could definitely
Well, the
see
the real ham is also even harder to cook than the turkey. Like if you really do the ham in the way that people really do the turkey, it's also
that. No,
gonna
but you
take
can buy a pre-cooked ham.
You can buy pre-cooked turkey too, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's not as common, but I see what you're saying.
yeah.
I don't
Like
know where
everybody who's buying a ham and honey baking it or whatever for 5 seconds is also just doing like an instant ham. But that's the whole point, is that I think people think of it as like kind of like a like bang, like well, we have turkey, let's like wham, like let's level it up
throw
with
a
a
ham
ham
on the side.
Takes 5 seconds to
We
make
just throw it
ham.
in the oven, heat it up for 20 minutes. We'll drizzle
Yeah.
some molasses on it, and there you go.
Yeah. It's also like a Catholic thing, I think, for me. I've always had it at any sort of Catholic style, like an Easter feast or like a
Easter's different. Ham at
Yeah.
Easter, that's different.
I think
That's
that kind of
totally
I think Thanksgiving kind of like snuck in to like that type of dinner in America, because we kind of have that
Easter
tradition
ham,
through a lot of holidays.
Well, for
Yeah.
Catholics, because remember, originally before Vatican II, Catholic lore, before Vatican II, you couldn't eat meat for the entirety of the 40 days of Lent. Not just the Fridays, which is what it used to always be, that Catholics couldn't eat meat on any Friday. But then it became, okay, now only Fridays at Lent and Ash Wednesday. So to me, that maybe the ham was a celebration. Hey, we can eat meat again. So we did that, and of course we had to have like some baked ziti or something as Italians.
You're Italians, yeah. Fuck,
You had
yeah,
to.
whatever, yeah.
Well, that's what my grandma, since I was a pudgy, thick but quick pat, my grandma would always tease me when we came over to hers place, for Sunday, supper. We did as Italian suppers where you sit
Yeah.
down at like 3:30.
Exactly.
She'd be like, "Oh, we only have ham, Patrick. We don't have ziti." Then she'd go, "Just kidding." And they always had meatballs and fried and sausage on top of it. I'm like, "Really? There's no ziti?" Because I needed that many carbs when I was 10. Jesus.
You shouldn't be judging your 10-year-old self.
I'm judging.
That kid was
I'm
just trying to live. That kid was just trying to live. He was just free. He
Did I
didn't
ever
have
tell
the
you about-
encumbrances of modern life hanging over his head. He just liked baked ziti.
Did I ever tell you about the one conversation I had with my grandfather that was like harsh and out of line, but I was correct? Like,
Okay.
he got on me for being overweight. I think I was like 17 or so.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, well, maybe you should have told your son not to, watch what your kid eats and not allow me eat so much crap I basically laid down the law to my grandfather. I was like, hey, how much self-control do you think a 9 or 8-year-old had as a kid versus maybe it's up to the parents to parent a little more and not let your kid eat like garbage. And my grandfather had no comeback because how could he? But looking back, that was a harsh thing to say to my grandfather. But he was teasing me for being fat.
Honestly, I don't think that's even that harsh. Like,
it was harsh though, because it was one of those things where, like, it was like a blind spot in the system. And it's like, think about it. You put a bunch of shit in front of an 8 and 9 year old eating Life cereal every day as a kid, and why do you think? Of course, I was gonna get fat, especially while I'm playing Nintendo. Of course.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, like, I think part of is that they were figuring that we were also running around outside and doing flips and jumping.
Oh, I was.
Yeah.
I played a lot, but I was just eating. I went out to play street hockey in the fall almost every day. I was playing. I was going to the park, but I was just eating so much shit still. And that I couldn't burn enough calories.
Do you think we can blame the Depression? Like the Great Depression, like, how like there's this thing like that your grandma and grandpa, if you're millennial, were like, finish your plate now. When we were young, we had nothing. And so then when you, in the post-war era, like we went into like the American exceptionalism, like land of bounty and opportunity vibe that we were on for a little while.
Because my mom was so cheap when she picked what to buy for us. But she still baked us lots of brownie mix was so cheap, and cookie mix, and ziti's, pasta is so cheap. That's a cheap freaking meal, pasta.
Well, that's what I heard, was that pasta in general like didn't have as much meat in it at all until Italian Americans like wanted to celebrate the riches of living here and putting, you
might be right.
Yeah,
because it's more fish eaten traditionally in Italy. And obviously, some Italian restaurants you find fish, but a lot of it's the real ginza stuff, like the chicken parm stuff. And
yeah, depends on where you're from in Italy.
Yeah, more southern Italy and Sicily, it gets more into that. But you see what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of parents not knowing that, like, maybe your son shouldn't eat a half pound of pasta for a meal, and the food pyramid is a lie pushed by big carb.
It's absolutely bad. Yeah.
Because it used to be, you should eat tons of carbs, and it's
big diabetes trying to come get you.
No, it's like, no, tons of carbs, unless you're burning them, are useless. Like, they're absolutely useless for your health.
If you think about how like actual civilizations that have been around for a long time
didn't eat carbs.
Yeah,
eat a lot of carbs.
They weren't eating carbs. Like nobody had carbs.
We weren't making a lot of bread thousands of years ago.
Or if you were eating bread, you had like a piece of bread that was going to last you. You'd eat like that same piece of bread for like 3 straight fucking days, and you'd be working your hands to the bones.
Hunters and gatherers.
We weren't slamming down PB&Js.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, we're gonna see who invented the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It was the ancient.
It's probably like fucking George Washington Carver, and we're gonna feel like shitheads.
No, he was just peanut butter, wasn't he?
He to me, he is like God because he invented peanut butter. Like I don't know what I would do without that shit. He to me, he is a literal demigod.
A little peanut god. He had a lot of time on his hand and lots of peanuts.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Are we off the Thanksgiving conversation? Are we done with it?
I feel good about it. I feel like we did talk about Thanksgiving.
So you notice that I'm wearing this is a large shirt. It's not a medium. My Cobra G.I. Joe cartoon shirt. And
yeah.
G.I. Joe is, to me, not my all-time favorite cartoon, all-time favorite toy line. And
all-time favorite IP?
Yes. For me personally, yes. Because it was well thought out. From a consumer standpoint, the toys were priced, and Transformers are the same thing, but you had like 4 different scales of vehicles. So even if your parents couldn't afford like the hovercraft, they can get you the smaller vehicles.
You always had something to play with, yeah.
And the figures themselves were priced accordingly. So so like back in, like, we'll say mid 80s, I still remember the price of like $229 being the price for like a G.I. Joe at Toys R Us for like 5 years. $229 with that light orange sticker. So it's like, that's a reasonable price back then. Even with inflation, that's a reasonable price. And you got a great backstory for every character. In the cartoon, that mostly matched the file cards. The file cards were all written for the most part by Larry Hama, who created the 80s G.I. Joe and the comic. So you had this instant background, fleshed out backgrounds to these characters. So like, okay, now I know this character, where they're from. And then the cartoon incorporated most of it, but it was more not even want to say kiddie. It was toned down because the file cards were like super serious. It said like what like weapons they were specialists at firing, like all these like NATO weapons that like would never appear on the show because they were like laser rifles. So, but it gave you a following of like, okay, I like this character. This is a nerdy character. Or this is a character that's from Boston. He's a firefighter. Or this character grew up liking the cold, so I like this character. And you had all these personalities already attached to these, and you had this rotation of dozens of characters. It's the only cartoon that ever did this in the history of cartoons. It has the largest reoccurring animation cast of any cartoon in the history of cartoons. We're talking, I think, 70 to 80 recurring characters that showed up at least twice.
Before this episode started, folks, I want you to know that Pat was teasing me for my X-Men boner when literally he's describing like the strengths of X-Men to me right now.
No, it's not, because in the cartoon they only had like 8 people.
But anyway, but I didn't. It wasn't a cartoon. It was a bunch of comics.
Yeah, but they didn't rotate out like G.I. Joe did.
Yes, they 100% did.
Not in the first 15 years of the comic they did.
The first 100, nobody reads the first 15 years.
Okay, no one used the first 15. Okay, all right. They basically dumped the original 5 characters for the ones in the 70s. They didn't rotate them. They just dumped them.
No, they didn't dump them. They just moved them into X Factor, which also was a thing. And then now Scott's back on the team.
People really read X Factor.
Yes, they fucking did read X Factor. Are you kidding me?
Speaking of boomers, they jumped the boomer team to the side.
What are you talking about?
Angel, get the hell out of here. Beast, Marvel Girl, get the fuck out of here.
Apocalypse.
They just kept Cyclops. And Marvel Girl became Phoenix, and they killed her off. Spoilers.
Anyway, they killed Phoenix off way before X Factor. Don't worry about it. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Iceman's my favorite X-Men all time, by the way. So the reason I'm wearing this shirt, which you made fun of me for, is because the voice of the Baroness, Morgan Lofting, passed away recently.
Yeah, truly a legend in the world of voice over.
I just know her from that. I have the article here for you, but did Aunt May and Black Cat for the early 80s Spider-Man stuff I never watched.
Yeah, and I think she was a couple Transformers also.
Transformers?
Yeah.
Did voice work on Total Recall?
What did she do in Total Recall? She's in it? No, she's
just did voice.
Voice. Okay.
Just did voice.
What?
So the Baroness is one of the most famous villainous characters probably in cartoon history.
Oh,
it's like that Eastern European aristocratic voice, which actually the background of the character is written as some like aristocratic snobby person that just decided to help do like revolutionary shit because they were bored and rich. Like that's basically the background of the character. Like it's one of those like, oh, you're just sitting in the suburbs. You want to start terrorizing neighborhoods and thinking of revolution like a bunch of these Antifa brats are. That's basically the Baroness.
She's kind of like what's her name, the daughter of the rich guy who got kidnapped and had the machine gun. What's her fucking name?
I almost know what you're referencing, but you're on point. Yeah. So the point is that character is great. For, the reason why I'm into a lot of people are into like dark long-haired women with glasses is because of the Baroness imprinted on you when you're 5 years old.
Everybody want to get domed by the Baroness.
There's an episode with her in a bikini. They're trapped on an island, and the Joes and Cobra have to work together. It's one of the rare episodes they have to work together against a common enemy. Anyway, so she passed away, and not saying I didn't cause her to die. I didn't say that, but I feel not even responsible. But I felt weird because I said to myself, I was at Retropalooza a month ago, and she was there along with 3 other G.I. Joe voice actors, and I said to myself, I really should talk to this person because, they're getting up there, and it'd be nice to acknowledge them for their work on the show that was a seminal point in my childhood, a seminal experience.
You don't have to justify why you want to go meet the Baroness. That's cool.
But then I second guessed myself like an idiot, especially since I didn't really have a line most of the weekend. I said, what am I going to say to her? I said to myself, I'm going to sit there and be like, what? But now she's gone, and I'll never get a chance to say thank you. I should have just said thank you for portraying this great character that has stuck with a lot of us for now 42 years. Like that, I should have just said that. I'm a fucking idiot. I didn't take the opportunity to do that.
You hate to see it. But you know what? I actually respect that. I'm the same way where I just like, I never want to talk to famous people. I feel so dumb for doing it. Like I get excited about the prospect of doing it. And then I just like, it's like a bell curve of like how close physically I am to them when I just want to be like, thank you. I enjoy your work. Goodbye. I have to go. Really important to me. Gotta go. Bye. Like that's the best I've ever done. Like with a famous person that I wasn't like meeting on a personal basis. So scary.
Yeah. So rest in peace, Morgan Lofting.
And you're a legend. You're a legend, Lofting.
I mean, knowing that voice is so particular.
Yeah.
Even
Baroness is awesome.
Even it's like Cobra Commander's voice or Destro's from the original. Like, you cannot, people that try to replicate those voices, it doesn't come close.
Yeah. She crushed it. And honestly, like that entire that entire archetype is like a vibe. Like I just watched The Phantom recently with Billy Zane and what's her name's in there? Welsh actress who's married to Michael Douglas. Help me out.
Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Yes, Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's in there before she's like an Oscar-nominated actress, Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's just like the Baroness, basically, like, but like the Sky Pirate version. It's great.
The Sky Pirate Baroness version.
It's great. It's great. It's great. I just love pulp archetypes, and the one that the Baroness is one of my faves. So shout outs to her. God rest her soul. And I'm sorry that you didn't. I'm sorry that you didn't get to connect with that part of your that key part of your childhood.
Have you seen this Jubilee channel?
Yeah, I have.
So this channel I'd never heard of until about 6-7 months ago. When on my feed, I started getting these things like, who is a virgin? Which one of these guys is really gay? Out of 30 straight men versus one secret gay man. Fit men versus fit women. You have all these, one politician versus 25 undecided voters. One Democrat versus 25 Trump voters. One Republican versus 25 Kamala Harris voters. You get my picture. Like, it's these weird, like, diametrically opposed sides forced to confront teen millionaires versus minimum wage workers. It's called middle ground. Like, they're really going to find any. And so it's these strange, like, we're going to throw these people at each other and see what delicious this comes from them just arguing with each other and almost nothing ever being solved. That is the premise of these videos.
It's fucking... you know what it feels like? It feels like, you know, the thing where like they have these influencers and they make them box just because we just are trash.
But that's more honest than this.
But that's what I'm saying. So there's like a type of famous like person who is actually vapid and an influencer, but whose persona is like that they're like intellectual and like makes you feel smarter than the people that you are around. And they don't want to like put on boxing gloves and like fight each other in like a glorified like contest of whatever. Like, this is that for people who like, this is like for people who don't want to get punched in the face. This is their like YouTuber boxing. It feels exactly the same. Nobody's there to like see sport. Everybody's there to just like go, yeah, show them. I already believe what I believe.
It's still a pit fight.
Yeah.
But it's a verbal pit fight.
Yeah.
These quote unquote debates.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny when people say, like, we're in this weird, like, toxic debate culture now online, where it's really, hey, let's just prove in a more succinct way that my side is right based upon the amount of knowledge that you lack in this subject. Yeah. That's what these conversations usually devolve into. They're not intellectually honest. It's not about sharing ideas. It's just, well, I know more about this, so I'm going to say it and hope that you don't know enough to counter my point. Yeah. It's not about exchanging ideas. It's just about getting in gut shots. That's
the problem is with online discourse and with Jubilee and with all this stuff is that people don't actually understand what communication is for. People don't actually understand like what they're doing when they communicate. Like, they don't have the awareness to own their actions. Like, even on Bluesky, which is supposed to be like, you know, everybody's like kind of framing it as this like sort of like liberal utopia, like Magneto's Genosha, like kind of fucking.
Magneto's, no, it's more like how Twitter was 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is this sort of like over the top sort of description is like, you know, if you go to Bluesky, there's no weirdos and
those weirdos.
Oh, well, that's exactly what I'm about to say is like, I'm still on there, like trying to do what I did 10 years ago on Twitter and just like cavalierly express an opinion about media or say something funny or whatever. And I get these replies to it that are like, no, like I was like Furiosa, best picture of the year. Right. I don't
Okay.
care what you think about Furiosa personally. Like, stranger. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't say it because I was looking to cancel out your reality in which that is not the case. I said it because I think it, and like there are people out there who are interested in what I'm thinking, and so that's why you saw it. Like you saw it because you ostensibly you care what I'm thinking, and so you followed me to see it. But what I get as a response a lot of the time is like, no, I mean maybe it's this good, but it's not good. It's not the best picture. And it's like, but to me, I'm like, why are you even like, what is the impulse that you are even following that causes you to write something like this back to me? Like, what are you trying to affect in the world by?
Well, they're not affecting anything. For like the same way these debates are not going to persuade or dissuade anyone from their views. It's all confirmation biases. When you have one person, like let's see, like the one I forced myself to watch at 1.65x speed was Destiny, one Democrat versus 25 Trump voters, surrounded, and it always devolved within a minute and a half into just like not that you're crazy, but we can't even agree on facts. Like, what are we doing? Like that's spectacle. And like the top comments on this video are, let's see. I hope this isn't a preview to what Thanksgiving dinner is going to look like this year. It probably was in a lot of places.
Yeah.
All I got from this is that America actually needs to step up in the education department. If you're asked, why do Europeans think Americans are idiots? Show this video. Just things like this. One person kept saying, "Were you there when Destiny was citing?" It was I think it was one of the Jack Smith election tampering stuff, saying, "Oh, there was like 40 witnesses that said this thing happened," and the person across from Destiny said, "Oh, were you there? Did you see it?" And Destiny's like, "I don't need to have seen it. It's testimonial.
The 40 people have seen
under oath. Like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Like, so, and that's what this devolves into. It devolves into people not even be able to agree on set of facts or definitions of words to establish facts or grounds. So then why even debate at that point? Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. It goes back to what I'm saying about the tweet, though. It's like there is some sort of impulse that is like innate, like some sort of feeling that we want to satisfy when it occurs to us by saying a negative. When you read an opinion that's against the one that's yours, or in this case, you're sitting there and you're like able to like jump in and like drop the mic on somebody, but like there's like this impulse to like say the opposite opinion, because if you don't, in my mind, it feels like they're saying it because if they don't say it, then it will become true and it will like take over the world or something. I don't know.
I actually, God, that's why I couldn't find it. I've been searching. I got my first ever, I've only been really posting a lot more on Bluesky the past month or so. Got my first snarky negative response, which they deleted. So I put out a post, a Black Friday sale post for the N64 book. And then I got a snarky response saying something like $5 off. Like, millennials can't afford to eat or something. They can't afford physical books. You boomer. And it was like, and digital is digital forever, not physical. And I just responded. It was out of line. It was like you're taking a weird shot at me, not knowing what I'm selling or what the audience is. I've been doing this for 8 years now, selling these books. I responded nicely. Over 99% of the Ultimate Nintendo books sold have been physical. And my target audience is those millennials you speak of. Smiley face. Polite response, letting know that, hey, you're probably out of line calling me, a boomer and not knowing what I'm talking about. It's almost like, oh, I'm going to make these books and I'm going to put them out there and not know that there's a market for them. That's how this post was. It's the same sort of mindset as like you are saying. It's like, what are they like? They're going through this sort of like they're almost trying to trick themselves into believing it when they're doing it.
Yeah.
And seeing if it works.
That's actually in this Scientific American article that you sent me to read about.
Oh, I didn't even read yet, but I sent it to you.
Yeah, it's literally like part of the reason. Basically, just to give you a sort of like cliff notes of what these two things are about. It's like he sent me some stuff to read up on about this Jubilee thing. Basically, like.
Well, that's the name of the article. Conservative and liberal brains might have some real differences.
It's right.
Which is what people have been doing studies on for decades, where basically the brains react differently to the same information.
Well, they don't know. They don't know, based on what the study's saying, they don't know whether it's that people with one type of brain are predetermined to go to one political alignment, or if just your socialization and like what political climate you're in sort of affects your development of your brain. They're not really sure which one is which.
They say probabilities. It's like a probability.
But the point is that like when you look at any one person's brain, based on the shape of it, you can kind of guess with some accuracy what their politics are like in broad strokes.
Sure.
And it's funny to me to read this stuff because if you read the article and look at the like conclusions of like what
I'll link the article on YouTube. It's by Lydia Denworth, by the way, if you want to search
the point is just that it's like a strategy guide for marketing to conservatives. It's basically like if you want to make something appeal to conservatives, scare the shit out of them and lie to them. And if you want to make something effective to Democrats, tell them every fact that they need to know and help them understand what will actually be the better thing. And that's pretty crazy. But then they also suggest in the one that's more of a study, the neuroethics UPenn study, they also suggest ways that you can kind of frame arguments to sort of circumvent this sort of predisposition to different brain shapes, where like if you're talking about let me pull it up exact so I can like say the exact right quote.
So you said conservatives, you had to do what? You had to scare them and what?
You got to scare the shit out of them and appeal to their like
base instincts.
Yeah, like appeal to their like feelings of safety, security, fear, and liberal brains like make decisions based on facts.
Sure.
Which is fucking funny. But it's like encouraging people to question their biases is number one, because first of all, we're all human, right? So like either you can let your fucking body like control your actions and you can be like a fucking hippopotamus in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can be like,
oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
You can eat like something good or something bad still.
Yeah, exactly. Like dieting is hard. We were just talking about being big boys, right? Like, I'm still a pretty big guy, but like I'm svelte for a big guy, like because of what I eat. And I have to think about that every time when I'm like stoned or something, especially like, and I'm trying to like get like, Taco Bell. I have to like change the fantasy of Taco Bell in my mind actively into, me eating tabbouleh and salmon again for the millionth time. But like, you can do it. The point is that you can do these things and you can help yourself make decisions for yourself and for the future of your country and for your people that are based on your values and your ideals rather than like your stereotyped first impressions. But another thing about conservative brains and actually liberal brains also is that both of them are very predisposed as a human trait to like zealotize as your belief system is challenged.
Okay.
So like the more challenge to things that are core to you, to your beliefs, you feel like the more challenged you feel by what's happening. Like if you're, say a parent and you're thinking about, your son's performance let's say your daughter's performance in softball, and you're looking at stuff on the internet about trans people in sports, and you're feeling one type of way about it, and it's starting to feel like science and psychology is showing that maybe this is okay, right? And you're starting to get freaked out because you're starting to see these stories online about people pretending to be female so that they can like get better performance in sports and all this stuff. And as the world is shifting in your favor, where once you just kind of were like, it's kind of weird to think about that it's like a male body and a female mindset and like whatever. I don't really know all the facts, but like whatever. I'm not going to vote like in favor of hate, but then eventually like by the time it comes into it starts to affect your world more and more. The distance that you're willing to go for the cause just increases. Or if you're like a anti-abortion, or you're I think anti-abortion is better because it's more what's kind of happening is like if you're anti-abortion and you are starting to see your state government like trend towards being pro-choice,
sure,
you start willing to like do terrorism. If you're like,
because it affects you, it's in your face more. So to your argument, it's like, okay, say I'm a parent and say the whole trans athlete debate comes up and if I was a parent who didn't have a child competing where it could affect them, I'd be like, yeah, who cares? It's overblown. But like if I then went to a game and my daughter competed against someone that really destroyed them, that was a trans athlete, then I'd be like, oh shit, we got to do something about this. I'd be a lot more likely to, because it's right in front of me. It affects me.
And you're more willing to forsake like things that maybe you wouldn't have, like
social decorum goes away.
You're starting to think about like before, when it wasn't affecting you, you're thinking about the issue as a whole, and you're thinking about like all the different things that are out there that this might affect, like people that are not, child athletes, and the laws around trans, surgery and trans medical care and all this types of things.
Sure.
Like all that stuff had some value to you, but then suddenly the closer it gets to you and the more it affects you, and you start to just start to not care about those things and start to just care about your thing. And that's something that happens on both sides, but it's more manipulable when your brain is predisposed to protect the things the way that they are, and your home and your feeling of safety and sameness.
Sure, like, which is what the conservative sort of mindset is. It's
right.
Like
it has to do with the amygdala.
We must maintain what we have, and we're not going to change it much. We're going to just stay with what we have.
And why messaging like we have to change the system, we have to throw out the system or defund the police or whatever. Like those types of messaging, even though something like defund the police really does like mean something much different than.
Oh, I argue with my liberal friends that was an awful fucking marketing slogan. That
right.
He's like, well, it doesn't really mean that. I said, I don't give a shit what it means. When I hear that, it's like, let's get rid of police.
But that's exactly.
And the Democrats are still having issues with that bad marketing. With that,
yeah, exactly.
Like there's a difference between saying to the average person who doesn't know any better, defund the police, and we need to we have to shift some things a little bit. We have to do a little better organization of our police force, and we have to reach out to the community. Things that are more palatable than we got to defund the police. And my friend would be like, well, that's their issue for not understanding. No. It's your issue because you have to market it to them.
That's
politics is marketing.
That's exactly kind of like what the takeaway I think is from this type of stuff is just that like a lot of the reasons that it's difficult is not just because like, people on the other side are dumb and they don't know what they're talking about. And as a matter of fact, there's also in the Popular Science or Scientific American article, there's a thing about that actually the outgroup negativity that we think the other group has for us is like not as high as we think it is. And honestly, inaccurate information heightened negative bias. So like the things that make people hate us politically against each other, the things that make us hate the other side are usually inaccurate information. Mm-hmm. And usually when you correct that information, it exponentially reverses the effect. So really what's important when you're talking to people who have different political beliefs than you is to remember that it's really just a question of that they don't live in this reality the same as you. And it's not about them making evil choices usually. Like obviously there's a type of person that, we want to believe these people are, but there's so much more to it than that. And the human biological element is something that is not, it's not debatable. It's not like, well, I don't think that's real. It is real. It's quantifiable. This is a challenge that you need to consider. This is not a matter of opinion.
Well, let's get back to how like these Jubilee things don't touch upon almost anything you said, because it's literally like, oh, you got a minute to make your point, and then these people around you throw up these red flags and they want to boot the person out of the group so someone else can come in and yell at them to try to make their point.
It's
as quickly as
anti-discourse.
possible.
Yeah,
anti-discourse, and what I say on the phone to you, detrimental to the republic.
Yeah,
and I don't say that lightly.
It's like anti-democracy. Yeah.
Yes, because democracy is about sharing ideas in a civil way.
Yeah.
This is not civil. They yell at each other. They try to take pot shots at each other, and it's just not. At the end they try to go, "Oh yeah, we came to some common ground." There's just one person, and you see some of these same people show up in some of these. I was like, "Well, I recognize the person for another one." Like there's Destiny keeps going back and talking to this one guy in glasses who's like the thinker of the group, because he presents himself in a more professional way, but there's still the same sort of like fallacies of logic.
Yeah. What's the word for that?
Sophistry.
Yeah. Sophistry. Pretending to be intellectual to like bamboozle even dumber people into thinking that you know what you're talking about, and kind of smudging your dumb
Sophistry
argument.
definition: the use of fallacious arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving. So when you're not intellectually honest, you cannot engage in a debate, because to me a debate is about sharing ideas, even if you don't. It's not about always, I'm going to persuade the person. No, it's about sharing ideas from your point of view. That makes sense. But this is not that.
It's bad faith intellectualism is what this is.
Yes, a lot of these people it's bad faith intellectualism to create cheap points where everyone in the group goes like, woo, we got him. We made our point to that conservative, or we made that point to that liberal. It's like, well, what the fuck? Like, what are we doing? Like, you think it's going to solve a damn thing? We're not changing minds. We're not even
Buckley
getting
and Vidal. This is what they talk about in this.
We're not even getting to any common ground, or if we are, it's quickly thrown asunder for what's dividing us. It's literally, people love these videos. It's literally modern day gladiator shit. It's modern day.
You get to kind of like live out your fantasy of like a bunch of people who agree with you yelling at somebody who's definitely not going to like make a point that's going to like stop all the people who disagree with them in their tracks and teach them about something that they didn't know about. Yeah.
They don't like charts and facts to back them up. They're not slowly going through, well, this immigration reform is likely to do this, and these are the facts why, going to charts and looking at things over decades that occurred, looking at, well, what happened when Reagan, slashed taxes for the rich in the 80s? Well, it created a huge detrimental budget concern, and this is why. No, this is just yelling at each other, and a little fact check will come up on the bottom of the screen every now and then that no one's paying attention to, in order to like smooth over the fact that this is actual horse shit.
This also, I think, might just not be a way that humans should exchange ideas in general, is like arguing. You think? Arguing
it's like
loudly.
It's like you're playing speed chess, but with politics.
Like doing like performative arguing. It just doesn't really... It kind of feels old fashioned and good, but it's
not. No, it's not old fashioned.
It feels, it feels like it is. It feels like the old Greek forums or something like that.
No,
but
it's not the Lincoln Douglas debates where each one would talk for 45 minutes before the other person went. It's not that.
Right. They started the article in Scientific American talking about Buckley and Vidal, Gore Vidal and William F. Buckley Jr., where they like thought they were going to have a debate on TV that was going to show people like, see, even in the late 60s when politics are like extremely volatile, like two intellectual thinkers on two opposite sides of the coin can like, have a nice civil argument. But actually what happened was that they like started calling each other names and sued each other for defamation afterwards.
I didn't even know that. That's in the article?
Yeah. So like,
man, I should read these articles I send to you.
There may not be a way for like, cogent discourse to be televised like this where everybody can talk or not. Like, I think we were onto something with the 45-minute long debate where nobody can talk except for the person talking. I think that's where, like, if that's what debates were today, people would be so caught out by their lack of real preparation.
Well, people don't have the attention span for even 5 minutes. Like nowadays, it's like, oh, you have 90 seconds to talk about world politics during a presidential debate. It's like, what? Like, this is a little more complex than me just, like, what are we doing? What I get 2 minutes to talk about the Middle East? Like, okay, yeah, I can really talk about it and solve it all in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And like,
another problem is it doesn't even matter about the debates, because once you learn information, your own partisanship then like changes it in your memory. Like, another thing that they talk about is that people are remembering Obama shaking hands with the president of Iran, and they're remembering George Bush, like staying on vacation when Katrina hit or whatever it was. Which neither of those things happened.
Did not happen.
But everybody, like people today, like they yell about it. They talk about like, that guy sucked. He did this. He did this. He did this. And it's just like a complete made up thing. So sometimes even after you have been presented with the truth and seen it for yourself, you then just decide, you know what, it would be better for my own existence and my own time perceiving this reality if I just decide that this other thing is true that didn't even happen, which is crazy.
So basically, we're cooked, is what you're saying.
Do you mean like how do we get out of this?
Especially because they don't have this problem like we do in Europe. Like Europe does not have nearly this sort of issue.
I think Europeans will tell you that the writing seems to be on the wall everywhere, but they got a little more time than we do. That's how I feel.
They're going to devolve a little bit slower than we're like the poster child for how we can devolve based upon disinformation, social media running amok, and an uninformed society.
The thing that Europe has on us, honestly, is just, to me personally, as somebody who has traveled the globe at this point, I've been to a lot of different places, and like the thing that really sticks out to me, and even when I just think about arguments with people online, is that like any European country is smaller than my city.
Yes. Or not necessarily your city, but they're
like
the
LA
state,
County,
like California would be like one of the biggest countries.
Forget it would be bigger than almost, I think, probably every country in Europe. Like I think honestly, Los Angeles County is bigger than almost every country in Europe.
The United States is basically a continent of 50 countries. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, and that's really a problem because we don't act like it. You know, that's what's.
But we do act
crazy.
like it because the European Union. How many countries are in the European Union? Is it even 50? European Union.
But the European Union isn't a country.
No, but it's a union. 27. We have 50.
Yeah.
So we have 50 different entities we're trying to keep together. They have only 27.
Yeah, and we're gonna
and our population dwarfs theirs.
Yeah, I mean
that's what I'm trying to say.
But that's the whole point, is that we are not running our shit tight. Like our national government is like their EU government, which also like, you know, like look, like
but that's just a union. That's the point. We have a federal government.
That's what I'm saying. Like the size of our government trying to manage what the European Union can barely even do on their own, and do it for the life of every citizen in the country.
Sure.
Is and to get us all to get together on something is just insane.
We are unique, for better or for worse, in the entire world. There's nothing like this. With 50 different populations and geographic centers bound together by the Constitution, with different different ethnicities bound together, different a huge amount of immigrants. We're a country of immigrants. Like on paper, this should not be functioning at all. I guess on some level, we should be happy it's functioning as well as it is, even though obviously there are a lot of things wrong with it.
Yeah, though
that's what I kind of come back to.
Yeah, we'll talk again in like 18 months, but yeah,
see you at the midterms.
Yeah, say goodbye to NATO, everybody.
That would be really bad. I don't think we're gonna. They will not allow us to play.
There are only 15 countries in Europe that have a bigger population than Los Angeles County.
Yeah.
Just think about that. The county. That's just one city's like township.
And that's why the NBA champions are really the world champions. Well, not to get into that argument. Flea Market Madness. It's that old show we all know and love. One of the seminal game hunting shows. I filmed it way back in 2008. Came out in 2009. There really wasn't anything at the time.
The seminal game hunting shows.
Yeah, people are trying to say, well, there was a video on YouTube before showing someone going into like a thrift store and a shaky cam, but it's like, okay, it wasn't.
Did that one? What's his name? Did he popping off?
I forget. Yeah. I forget.
Does he have a big?
Because I remember at the 5-year anniversary in 2014, I said that in the video, and people were like, "No, Pat, you weren't really the first." It was like I said, it was groundbreaking, and I will pat myself on the back for patting yourself on the back for accomplishments.
Little Pat Concha on the back, yeah.
I'll pat myself on the back because it's not arrogance if it's true. First of all, and it's not like it's not like it's world changing. But most people that are made fun of for their arrogance are right. Okay. So you're going to make fun of me for saying it's a seminal show? Flea Market Madness.
I'm going to make fun of you for saying it's not arrogant if it's true, Michael Jordan.
Okay, that's fair. You got a point. The point is this. I'm editing the 50th episode right now of it, and I've been struggling to get I used to do like 6 or 7 a year back when I didn't have to do these gigantic, awful books, and I didn't have to do all these other stuff, and I wasn't going to 10, conventions a year. So I did enjoy it more, because I used to find things back then that were like, oh, a bag of games for $30. This bag of games is worth like $2.50.
And mask off, I love this show. I've been telling Pat that I love this show for a decade.
I here's the thing. I understand why people like certain things. I understand why people really love the video game years and want it to come back. I understand why they like the really goofy Pat the NES Punk. Like people either love or hate Pat the NES Punk videos. They either get the humor or they don't. Like it's not really like, oh, I kind of like it.
Sure.
For Flea Market Madness, it's one of those rare things where people love it a lot more than I realize. I'm not trying to be arrogant in saying that. People will come up to me and say, this show got me into buying games. This show got me into going out and searching for games. And I'm like, it says me in person. I'm like,
yeah,
that was never the intent. It was just a silly sort of walk into the real world reality and see what's out there. Right.
Right.
And so I think over the years, the reputation of the show grew as the collecting retro game market grew. And it probably had a very small part in helping that sort of growth spurt. It got more people into collecting.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, if you look at how many people are viewing it, I feel like a large percentage of the people.
What are the old numbers? I'll go back and look at the original numbers.
Even just the current. I'm just saying, even just the current ones. Like the last couple are doing pretty good. 50K. You know,
they're the best performing on my channel. They do better than most of my NES Punk videos.
But what I'm saying is, like, I feel like it's possible that like you're getting by putting this show out and having it be such a consistent, ongoing show that does this one thing. And there's really not that many shows that do this still. Like,
there are. They just don't get like the like.
But that's what I'm saying. Like the Game Chasers are out there. There's a couple other shows that have done similar things, but like this one, I feel like looking at these numbers, you're looking at close to how many people have this hobby.
Volume 32 from 2017, 170,000 views.
Yeah,
I couldn't. Volume 33, 158,000 views. 78,000, 112, 70. It drops over the pandemic because the algorithm changes. I'm not going to blame. I'm not the type of YouTuber that blame everything on the algorithm. Algorithm does affect some of these things. The point is this: volume 29, 214,000 views. Like, so over time, some of these have amassed views where I'm just an idiot going to a flea market and just haggling over games.
Yeah,
there's no thought put into it. There's nothing intelligent about it, but people like it.
But doctor, I'm Pagliacci.
You reference that almost every week now. It's like a meme now.
It's fun. It's true though. Like, this is exactly that. Literally, you're having the stereotypical artist's lament right now. Like, you are the quintessential frustrated genius right now.
I don't know, but it's not even frustrated.
I give you gold every time I try, and yet all you want is the slop that I feed you. You know, like it's basically that, right? Like, it's that.
No, it's not that. I'm just trying to understand I know the appeal. I just don't know the range of appeal. Like,
I think you're talking to, more than any other show that you do, you're talking directly to the majority of the retro video game audience that exists. If I go to a convention in California, in Los Angeles, how many people come to it? SoCal Retro, what are we talking? What do you think?
5,000, 6,000?
Right. Let's talk about the ones in Texas. What do you think? 3 to 5,000 in general?
A little less,
right?
But yeah.
Okay, this video has 72,000 views on it, right? This recent one, the most recent one.
The one from 6 months ago. Okay.
No, the one from 3 months ago, volume 49.
That was only 3 months ago? Okay.
Yeah. It has 72,000 views. I bet you that makes up most people who would go to a retro convention anywhere in the country and the world.
Yeah, like the viable, like if we had a worldwide, anyone could teleport
somehow,
there.
Yeah. If somehow we could do that,
their body
if it was like, if it was like a little door that you open in your bedroom and you walk through and you're there, I think you're going to see about 70,000 people, 75,000 people at that convention, right? So to me, yeah, like 72K views, it's great for your channel. It's not that much drop in the bucket overall in like how many views YouTube videos get. But I think the reason that this show is so important is because it's been there the whole time. There's no better way to look at the sort of metrics of this industry than going and looking at different stalls and seeing how the prices are and having somebody literally go in and talk about it all the time. And I think that's just what it is. I don't think it has to be I don't think this is a triumph of artistry or criticism. I think it's a triumph of like sheer, like this is like the same kind of success as if you built a fucking town next to a fucking train station. You know what I mean? Like the people need this service
they need to know what's happening out there in the world. They don't have the flea market near them to know that you can only find good deals.
People had to know how to be a picker of games. People need to know how to, the rules. People needed to understand about resellers. People needed to understand about that whole, like you gave the people the language of how to complain about flea markets, about how to complain about the retro games industry. That's what's happening here.
Wow, I didn't coin the word reseller. I guess I might have popularized the term. Now that I don't
think you coined it, but I do think that you said, if you're out there, there's these fuckers that go around and do
I didn't say fuckers first.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yes. I think there's these guys that go around buying them just to resell it.
To me, there's value to this. There's value to this in the same way Metal Jesus does his like pickup videos with Reggie all the time. Those videos are not deep. They're not. The point is not to say something. I'm not trying to get you to fillet me anymore on this topic than you are. I'm not filleting.
But what you're saying, no, you're being honest.
Yeah.
What you're saying is
it's not arrogant if it's true.
That was arrogant of me to say. But what you're saying is, I might have not knowingly, even this day, created a not even want to say structure. I created a basement, perhaps, that people then helped build upon for like, okay, now this is the environment we live in, that we are visually telling you the story of buying these old games.
Yeah.
Now we have terms involved, like reselling, resellers.
It's the same as hanging out in a comic shop and watching two other older comic book wizards like argue about shit, and you learn like 15 years of comic book history and culture from just hearing them yell at each other. It's the same exact, like you're giving them that experience, like the dream of what they, when they imagine Luna like going in and seeing Ian like yell at some guy and throw him out of the store for trying to like sell him some fake copy of Panzer Dragoon Zwei, whatever fucking romantic story they imagine.
Zwei's a cheap one, by the way, but all right.
Yeah. I mean, relatively, Sega Saturn is not is not a wallet friendly collecting.
Yeah, but the Dragoon Saga is the expensive one, but all right, go on.
Yeah. But you get what I'm saying.
Yes.
My point is just like there's some sort of wish fulfillment. There's some sort of romantic element to retro video game collecting that you have encapsulated with the show. And I think
do you think it's romantic to like, because you're finding
100%.
it in its most pure form, people that originally owned it that now you're finding and getting a deal on,
and just being a guy with a backpack walking around, and you got the knowledge in your pocket ready to bust out and be like, no, this isn't a good deal. You fuck. What do you?
Well, originally what made going to the flea market for the first out in San Diego the first 3-4 years unique was all the knowledge had to be in your head.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Before I had to know this stuff was worth money, and I didn't know what was important, what wasn't. I didn't always. I fucked up sometimes.
Right.
I still think of a couple of games where I was like, holy shit, I should have bought that game.
But you still go back at the end and you look and you go, oh, okay, so this was a deal, or this wasn't.
No, if I bought it.
Right.
But I'm saying I still remember those dot hack games. I remember finding like the whole set of them.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Yeah.
Like 13 years ago, they were like $10 each. Now they're, what are they, hundreds of dollars?
There's a whole era of PS2 games. There's a whole like sector of PS2 that people realized is fucking good, and they.
What are those dot hack? The point is like I still remember those ones like, oh, I passed this up, because at the time it wasn't really worth anything.
Yeah,
but now the whole set is worth, the whole set's worth hundreds of dollars if you have them.
Yeah, I just feel like there's something. I feel like there needed to be a town square of like somewhere where you could do this and talk about this, and like I think just because of the fact that like this really isn't about you too much, I think that's kind of also why it works. I'm like the guide to it. Yeah,
it doesn't. See, Ian thinks that the show, because I always say to Ian, like the reason I brought this topic up is because I'm not saying it's gonna be the last episode, but it maybe should be the last episode, just because not just my time constraints of doing other projects. I don't feel I have the energy or the interest to continue on, especially if I'm not finding anything. And like Frank and we don't go as often as we used to. and plus with everything else, there's less of a place of it in the world than 10 years ago, because the deals don't exist anymore. Everyone knows how to haggle. Everyone knows what to watch out for. And it's like, for me, it's like the old stuff isn't even showing up as much, let alone trying to find the deals. It's just not it's sort of like, speaking of boomer shooter, it's almost like boomer YouTuber when it comes to that.
That's true, but it's kind of a modern American feeling, I think, to age out of the demo. I think that's like a thing in people's life that I don't think they realize is going to hit them as hard as it does.
Oh, sure.
And aging out of the 18 to 35 demo kind of makes you immediately feel like the world is not made for you anymore, like like overnight, almost culturally. And I think for you, part of the sadness of Flea Market Madness is accepting that in 2024, like, 15 years later or whatever, like, the size of Flea Market Madness is the place that it could have. There's no delusions of grandeur anymore. It's just going to be tiny if you keep it going, and it's just going to be small and kind of like the thing that it is for the tiny group of people that still care about it.
Not I'm talking about audience size. I'm talking about like, what are you getting out of it?
But that's exactly what I mean. Like, so even like if you're going and just being like, it's dry, slim pickings today, the more I do this, the less there is. Like, that's a show still. You know what I mean? It's
still a show, but it's a less interesting show.
Right.
Like, no one's gonna watch these like reality shows if like no one finds a good deal.
But it's still a microcosm of the scene. Like, there's not like some other show where guys are finding shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh no, you can watch one of the other. There's like 3 or 4 of the big game hunting shows that are around. Like Pixel Game Squad's one. They still find stuff every now and then.
So do you
out there? What's that?
So do you?
Not really. No, I haven't found anything significant in years. That's like, wow, this is a great deal. Like, I just haven't. And that's just for games, for everything. There's just not deals anymore.
But you're also just going to one location every time, right?
Yes, but I used to find stuff. I used to go out. I didn't even film all the time. Like, if I really wanted to make Flea Market Madness like my IP, like this is my identity.
You should.
I should have filmed. You said I should have, or I should?
I think you could today if you wanted.
But I couldn't do anything else though, because I used to go every Saturday and Sunday. If I had filmed every Saturday and Sunday, or even just every Sunday, and then edited that and got it out every week, would have blown up. I would have been like Mr. Flea Market Madness.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been like 5 million subs, Mr. Flea Market Madness. That would have been me.
So is your complicated feeling about this just that you always kind of known that this could just be your meat ticket, and now it's like the time has passed?
No, I didn't want it to be. I don't want to be known as Mr.
I know,
Mr.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, you kind of don't want that, but you kind of like you've kind of felt this entire career that you kind of could have just done the money in the banana stand has always just been Flea Market Madness, right?
It's complex because it's like, Pat the NES Punk stuff, some people really love. Some of those videos blew up. Without that, I couldn't have worked with other YouTubers like Spoonie back in the day, and James, which I still do collaborations with from time to time. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like jack of all trades, a master of maybe one and a half sort of things. But I don't know. I guess what I'm opining is like, am I the person that should continue Flea Market Madness? Like, should it be something where like someone else takes up the mantle, almost like Robin? Like someone becomes the new Robin for Flea Market Madness.
Listen, if you want me to do Flea Market Madness, you can just ask me.
You want to hang out with Frank every week?
I would love to hang out with Frank every week.
Do a licensing
deal?
you
Frank probably has more secrets that he could tell me about you than anyone.
I don't tell Frank everything, but
not everything. But I bet you he could talk for a while, and I would have a lot of things to come.
Speaking of Robin, Frank calls me Boy Wonder.
That's pretty much. You do call him old chum back.
No, he calls me Boy Wonder because I'm younger than him, but like, I guess I'm smart to him, and so the fact that I've made a YouTube career to him is like mind-boggling. And I guess it is kind of a weird thing when you tell someone I made a YouTube career. They're
it's
like,
very heartwarming and fatherly. Is what it feels like. It feels nice.
But Frank's not my Batman, so it's.
I don't know about my Batman. Who's your Batman?
I don't have a Batman. That's one of the reasons I'm insane. I never had a positive like adult male role model that I literally modeled my behavior after growing up.
Okay, so you're Tim Drake.
Is that a Tim Drake?
Yeah, in my mind, you're Tim Drake. Actually,
Justin Todd. I'm gonna be a Justin.
Actually,
Todd.
no, Jason Todd. Justin Todd.
Sorry,
Jason Jason Todd. I was gonna say Jason Todd, but I don't want to like make you like a killer. I feel like that's too hard. Like, I feel like that's too bad.
I look back at my life. This is a whole other conversation where like I looked at my life and it's like, wow, I could have spun off into serial killer territory if like a couple of other things twisted a certain way in my childhood. I could have been on that weird.
If you got
path.
hit in the head a few more times on the way to school.
Well, not gonna. That's all the conversation. But I had a couple of childhood things where I'm like, wow, this is other childhood, like sort of characteristics of a future serial killer I had as a child. I had a couple. Wow, you went silent on that. That's not a.
I'm like I'm trying to comment on it, but I don't want to say something that's like, wow, you're pretty close to being a serial killer then, I guess.
No, it would have happened by now. But it's too late.
Or it has, and I just don't know, and you're just real good at it.
No, because they start young and they do more bolder things, and by the time they're in the 20s, they're usually offing people. But anyway.
You never know.
Okay.
Gail Simone was a hairdresser, and now she's writing Uncanny X-Men.
Okay, so that's like me becoming a serial killer in my 40s?
Yeah, pretty much. Same deal. It's never too late. Don't give up on your dreams.
So to close this segment off here, to put an end cap on it. Should I continue Flea Market Madness into the future?
I think you should. I think you should get
even if it's like once every now and then check in on it.
Yeah, I genuinely believe you should make like a nice little T-shirt. You should like get it going because I feel like now we're in the like legacy phase.
Please don't let me. I hate selling T-shirts at conventions. I don't want another T-shirt.
Why? Why do you need to sell it at a convention? Just
do like a Teespring.
Yeah, just
Flea
do a
Market
little.
Madness 50.
Yeah.
You know, I never sold the Flea Market Madness shirt. Maybe I fucking should. I'm an idiot. I had the logo and everything.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like low key you're gonna find that there's just a lot of enthusiasm for the show as a little cheat.
All right, I'll do a Teespring Flea Market Madness shirt. I'll see if I sell 20 of them.
Let's see. You know what? Read the comment section of this episode first to make sure that I'm right about this because
Flea Market Madness shirt.
I do watch a lot of your content. Look, I watch all the old YouTubers. That's kind of my thing, right? Like I'm around from then. I watch all the ones that were like kind of a little before me, right? Okay. That's like where I'm at. I don't really go beyond that. I like that flavor, right? Like I don't really expand too much. I don't listen to.
So, if I keep it around, I wonder if it'd be worth it to change the format so that I can do it more often. It would be a lot easier to edit, a lot less like post production where people still want it or not.
You should just go to conventions and do it. Is really what you should do.
No, that's like people like Phoenix Resale because he just flips games. So he shows himself buying games from vendors and shit and doing big $1,000 deals. That's not me.
But that's not really what I'm saying. Like if you go to a convention, you're like, all right, we're spending $50 at the Texas, like whatever expo.
You know what's funny? You said that. I didn't even tell you. That's the premise. Spoilers. The premise of this 50th episode. I give Frank $50 to spend.
Yeah, that's it. That's a show done. So you already wrote the show. So you got it.
So I give Frank $50 every episode to spend?
No, you give yourself $50 every episode to spend.
That's kind of hacky, but
it's not hacky. It's like
I gotta spend $50 even though I can't find anything.
No, you don't have to spend the $50. Your budget is $50 so that you're not going and buying like Hagane. You know what I mean? Like
at a game convention.
Yeah.
So now I got to travel. And now I got to do these videos instead of selling my books and paying my rent.
It's the romance of having a job like this, Pat. It's the fun of it is that we get to go make videos and talk about stuff that we like. That's the part that's fun about.
Well, I've been talking about it for 15 years. At some point, I got to take a break.
Let's do a show where he tests out all the beds in San Diego. We go around to all the mattress stores and we just have him lay in all the beds and we call
go to all the flop houses in San Diego and
call it Sleep Mattress Madness. Yeah, and I'm
just happy that I came up with a great name and a great theme song. I'll tell you this, I will be arrogant with this. I write a good fucking theme song and jingle. My career is littered with great jingles. I should have been a jingle writer. That's what I should have been.
What's the best jingle you've ever written?
Petty Pat's pretty damn good.
How does it go?
People, you better beware. People, you better prepare. If he comes at you, he just might clap back. It's Petty Pat.
So it goes bum 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 bum. Yep.
Do the jazz version?
Like it's like we're going like up and then we're like stepping down like in a jazzy way, like kind of.
Hey, I never had any technical musical training, but I do know I read a damn good jingle.
I'm just trying to get the arrangement because I would love to like imagine it like what's going on? Like, does it sound like Earth, Wind, and Fire? Is it like,
You know, I should do a compilation of all my jingles, including the ones from the NES Punk videos, and like run them together. I really should do that. Like, a half-hour video.
You know what you should do is I have a friend who is a improv pianist, and you should just like pay him to like do like little like plussed up versions with like a nice lush arrangement on each one.
Well, I wonder if there'll be a lush arrangement on the 50th episode of Flea Market Madness. We'll have to wait and see. Okay.
See how I'm just. You should hire me to be your producer.
No, asshole. I already thought of it.
Yeah, but if you hired me, you wouldn't have had to. You see what I'm saying?
You know what? I've been every year, Alex, I watch like a brand new 80s show. Not brand new. It's not a brand new show. It's brand new for me.
Brand
to catch
new for
up on.
Pat. Yeah.
So 2 years ago,
shows that move at a different speed than today's shows. Let's say.
So 2 years ago, like it's all comfort food. 2 years ago, I went back through all the Knight Riders, for example.
Oh man,
because as a kid, you kind of remember an episode here or there.
That show was so like hilariously like important for what a dumb premise it is. I love how popular Knight Rider got.
It was huge. Like it was only on for 4 seasons.
People were like, "Yo, that car though."
It was huge for like 2-3 years. They had toys. It was a phenomenon. It was an NBC, a primetime show. But I started like I've gone through like Charles in Charge again. I brought up that a few weeks ago. How I cried at one episode. So I went back and watched.
Speaking of good ass theme songs, let's talk about it.
I don't want Seminal's the wrong word. I've already used it to describe Flea Market Madness.
Your own self and your own show that you made. Yeah,
one of the quintessential 80s shows. I always say to people, there's like 2 or 3. Punky Brewster is one of those. That's like that could
Punky
only exist
Brewster
in the 80s.
Is the most 80s thing, like one of the most 80s things there is.
But
I don't know
this
how that
show is just as 80s.
Very 80s.
Silver Spoons.
Yeah.
So
together.
So Silver Spoons. If you don't know, where's the Wikipedia? Do I have it on the list here? That's not the theme, by the way. But so Silver Spoons came out in 1982. It was a primetime sitcom starring Ricky Schroeder, right?
As the boy.
As
quotes
the boy. As Rick. His name is Rick on the show.
Yeah, Ricky.
Easy to remember. I don't know the Wikipedia. I'll get it. What is it about? And you watched the pilot. Did you watch the pilot?
Watched the whole pilot. Okay. I was really surprised because what seemed to be the premise just wasn't the premise, which was very funny. Like, and also it was really weird to see Picardo that young and that like GTA'd out. Because wow.
So this is what it's about. So young Ricky is estranged from his father. There's no idea he has a dad that's still around. Comes to live with his obscenely wealthy father who runs a toy company, who was born into wealth, who's basically a man-child that has a mansion filled with arcade machines, foosball, and what the show is mainly known for nowadays,
the Pac-Man,
an oversized train that runs outside into and through the house, which is featured in most of the episodes, but not all of them. So the show was a major hit. It was on for 5 years, 4 years on NBC, 1 year, the final year in syndication. Ricky Schroeder was a huge star in the 80s because of it. Then he kind of tailed off. Then he had a career in NYPD Blue. And then after that, he kind of faded away. But either way, as a kid, I remember watching it. It was in syndication, late 80s. You can find it. But nothing stuck in my head about the show like it did with Knight Rider. All I remember was, he's like Richie Rich. He lives at home with a dad, and he has all these toys. It's like every kid's wet dream.
His face still looks like a little boy. It's really upsetting.
I went back and rewatched it, and I was like, this is going to be a silly show. This is not going to be anything. And I was shocked by how good the writing was on this sitcom. And even though it was geared around, a 12-year-old kid, there was a lot of adult-centric episodes that I'm surprised they got away with in the 80s. And I'll explain to you as I go through it. But what are your general thoughts just watching the pilot episode?
Like, it's really like it has that sort of old school sort of like deliberateness to it. It's very like straightforward. Like, as somebody who understands the language of television and like has been in writers' rooms and things like that, like this screenplay has like not one single surprise in it, really, like in terms of like where the story goes. It's pretty much like boilerplate stuff, but it's like really good, gratifying schmaltz that kind of it's old enough that it feels like a play enough. Like it's not reality all the way. It's like they're kind of in that like live studio audience like vibe.
Sitcoms
still.
are stage plays.
Yeah,
basically.
but it's on the edge. Like it's like on the edge, right? Like Seinfeld and Friends and stuff only were a couple years after when this started, but it's like there's some level of artifice that has been stripped away that is not normally in shows from the 80s, that because I think because it's such an early 80s show, and it hits so heartwarmingly schmaltzy, and the jokes are funny. The jokes are like really patient, and like they plant them, and then like 2 minutes later you'll get a punchline. It's just super sitcom-y, old school, very like sick day early 90s television programming.
But even in the pilot, which obviously pilots are rougher, you can see, okay,
it's tugging your heartstrings. They're doing some stuff.
But you can see the quality of the writing even in the pilot. It's like,
it's
okay,
good.
There's something
It's a solid, it's like exactly how I would write a pilot script. You could study this one in school today. It's airtight.
So what's interesting about the show, one of the main things about it that made it popular at the time, believe it or not, even though I wasn't alive, I was alive, I didn't realize it, was one of the co-stars of the show, even though he was only on about half of the episodes in season 1 and 2, was Jason Bateman. This was his first gig, basically. Who's in the pilot. Jason Bateman plays Ricky's friend. They quickly write him in as his friend, not just at the military school, but as like he lives in the same sort of town.
But that wasn't Bateman in the first one.
Yeah, it was.
When he was like, ugh. That's really Jason Bateman?
I'm sure. I thought it was in the pilot. Let's look at the link real quick.
There is a kid in the pilot, but I literally was like,
was that him in the pilot? Let's see.
I was literally waiting for him to show up, and I didn't recognize him.
Maybe that wasn't in the pilot, but he was in the second episode going forward.
He's like, hey, how come you're the only kid here whose parents don't ever visit? And then
that's him. That's absolutely him.
And then Ricky's like, hey, fuck you.
That's absolutely him as his bunkmate. It absolutely is him.
That's so
surprised
crazy.
You didn't realize that. Okay.
I really was looking for Jason Bateman,
That's
but
him.
I can't even like the young Jason Bateman I know doesn't quite look like that.
Well, because this is the youngest he's been.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jason Bateman is like his sleazy, like manipulative friend who steals almost every scene he's in once you start watching the show. Again, he's not in every episode. He's in like every other episode he appears in. But they were friends behind the scene, Ricky Schroeder and Jason Bateman. And then according to Wikipedia, the producers wrote him out of the show in season 2 because they felt he was upstaging Ricky Schroeder. I've read things online that said it was Ricky Schroeder's parents that wanted Jason Bateman off the show. So maybe it was a mix of the two. It was like, okay, we can see this guy. And Ricky Schroeder does a great job in the show.
Yeah,
he has comedic chops.
Yeah, he's funny.
He can emote. He cries in like every third episode, and like the tears look real. Like this kid
he's
can
like
act.
Funny, like from the beginning. Like his character is there. Yeah.
So like he should never have been threatened by Jason Bateman, and the show was stronger when Jason Bateman was in it. And I'll get into why in a few minutes. But it was a shame that Jason Bateman, spoilers, Alex, if you get into it, was written out of the show about halfway through season 2, and I'll get into how he was written off. But the show tackled some very interesting issues. It tackled like the grandfather not loving Edward Stratton III, the father of Ricky, and then coming to terms with accepting the grandson, and then that's a recurring character that becomes more softer as it goes. The relationship between his assistant and the father quickly develops, and they don't let it linger too far. They get together fairly early, like episode 11 or 12. It's like, okay, they have chemistry, they should be dating, sort of thing. They don't let it go for like 5 seasons before that happens. There's a lot to it. And in terms of the episodes, later in season 1, I think it might be the last episode of season 1, the boys, including Jason Bateman's character, actually, no, the one did not have Jason Bateman. They break into the father's cable box to watch an X-rated movie.
Hell yeah.
I think at the top of my head, it was like Nude Nurses from Outer Space is the name of the show.
Great.
They watch. And then the assistant, played by Erin Gray, who was every kid growing up in the 70s, a fantasy from Buck Rogers.
She's crazy because her name is, what's her name? Kate Summers in the show.
Kate Summers.
And she's Erin Gray outside of the show, and she looks exactly like Jean Grey.
Another X-Men reference. We'll ring the bell. Anyway,
you're wearing a G.I. Joe shirt. You can't. You're in the glass house.
They passed away. A real person died.
People die all the time who have been connected to the X-Men.
Oh Jesus. Anyway, so they get together, and so Kate finds the three boys watching the porno at the time, and so the father. All the sitcoms have the sit down between the father and son. I like in this show, it's not done it does not talk down to the audience, which I think a show like Full House definitely talked down to the audience.
It's just a little bit more saccharine of a show. Like this one's a little bit more mature, cigarette smoky, a little bit more earnest, a little bit more. This is how the world kind of is, making more sort of like jokes, like how the Simpsons make jokes, like straight to the parents, which Full House doesn't do as much.
Yeah. Not trying to. I don't want to go back and watch Full House, but Full House was overly schmaltzy with the music, and this was more like, because the father Edward is originally portrayed as more of a man child, and they kind of soften it as it goes. Where it's like, okay, he's a little more responsible, maybe because he has to raise a kid, which at the start he's afraid of doing, as you see in the pilot. So the father sits Ricky down and says, and does a very especially for children in the early 80s and for network TV, a very well-balanced take on pornography where it's like, listen, this is why you shouldn't be watching it. You're too young to understand what you're seeing, and the act of physical love should be pure between adults, and this could maybe porn looks to cheapen it, and it looks to make women look like objects, which even if you don't fully agree with that, you can see porn kind of does portray those things.
I get he's like porn's cool, but you gotta learn.
Well, no, he didn't say porn's cool for kids. That's what I'm getting to.
Right.
You beat me to it. He didn't say porn is cool. He says for children especially, it can demean women, pornography, and then it portrays the act as mechanical. I think he even uses the word mechanical. He says sex is mechanical and doesn't show like love between adults. And I'm like, that's actually a pretty, for a sitcom,
cool.
I nuanced take.
Yeah.
And then Ricky goes, this is why the show is good. You could have ended it right there, the conversation. Ricky goes to the father, well, Dad, why did we have that as part of our cable plan for? And the father's like, well, it's part of the movie package. So we have to show that. Yeah. And then the father goes, you're not buying any of this, are you? And Ricky goes, no, I'm not. So the show has the balls to deliver the sermon to the kid why you shouldn't watch porn, while acknowledging that porn has values to adults. And for a show in the early 80s, that's extremely progressive to do that. Because the Cosby Show wouldn't have done that. They just would have said all porn is wrong, we shouldn't be watching.
Well, early 80s, right, was like not the late 80s. Like the 80s kind of becomes the 80s a little later than 82, right?
82, 83 is when we're done with the 70s. But the point is this. Like, you wouldn't have expected that show to say that. I did not expect that show to say something.
I didn't expect it to make like black jokes even. Like, and it does, like even in the first episode.
Oh, with the assistant, you mean, with Leonard?
He's like, are you my dad? He's like, I figured I'd shoot my shot. My mom's liberal. Like, it's like some joke like that.
It wasn't like that, but there was a joke like that.
He literally answers the door, and the kid's like, "Are you my dad?" And he's like, "Not unless you're from Philadelphia." And he's like, "I was worth it." He was like, "It's worth a try." My mom's woke as hell. Like he says.
Well, he doesn't say that.
He says the '80s version of that.
So, and then there's an episode in early season 2 where Jason Bateman's character, God, what's his name on the show?
I don't know. I didn't really meet him. I don't remember.
Well, you met him, but you forgot his name.
He just like is in the show. His name's like Danny or some shit like that. It's
not Danny. God, you're ruining it for me.
I bet you it is. I bet you it fucking is Danny.
Even Wikipedia doesn't tell me the fucking name of him on here. Anyway, so Ricky and Jason Bateman, then they go to this camp getaway at a hotel, like something for like, it's like their version of a Derek. Derek and Ricky go to this hotel convention with the father. It's like their version of Cub Scouts, like a meetup thing. There's also a high school cheerleading thing going on with them. And the father's rich and comes across 4 tickets to the Duran Duran concert. The boys, who again, they're at this point in the show, they're like 13 years old. This is early season 2. Try to convince, and they come out and basically say this. They want to trade. They talk to the 2 high school girls, basically trade the tickets for sexual favors afterwards. They don't say it directly like that, but it's heavily implied that that's what's happening. And the one girl kind of agrees to it. The friend does not. They come back from the concert and they're like, hey, can we come in your room? And they actually have a conversation that's like awkward and drawn out where the girls are like, well, what do you really want, little boys? And they finally come around and saying, hey, we thought we were going to have fun. And the girls are like, no, but we wouldn't, like, we're not going to be trading, sex for concert tickets. And it's awkward, but real. And the fact that, again, they had the fortitude to like play out this conversation between like, say they're like 16, 17-year-old girls and 13-year-old boys. I'm like, okay, there's a lot more to Silver Spoon than I remember as a kid. This is not just for like, hey, watch a little boy play arcade games with his dad on the show.
Would you say it's accurate that you enjoy a show with some good values?
I enjoy a show with good writing. The values come second. If the values are presented in a positive like way that's like somewhat realistic to the
so it's
context,
more for you. It's just that they did it and they like imparted the values in a kind of grown up way for the 80s.
It was more intelligent than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
And so for the time I'm like, well, what's happening here? But when you look at who were the showrunners, I was like, okay. So this show was developed by Michael Moy and Ron Levitt. Okay. And you may not know those names off the top of your head. They were the co-creators of Married with Children.
Interesting.
And they were the co-developers of this show.
Interesting.
So you can see the through line, especially with Derek, Jason Bateman's character. As you watch the show, him and Ricky have a dynamic where they obviously love each other as friends, but the shit they say to each other,
they're like mean from the beginning. Yeah.
It's vicious. The things they say, it's over the top. Like, oh, just slam the door in Derek's face. Who gives a shit about him? It's like, wow, this is how Kelly and Bud talk to each other later on Married with Children, where they are vicious towards each other, and you can see it develop there. And I'm like, this is why the show is so good for what it is.
Cool, yeah.
So like, did that surprise you? Like, okay, I can see it now. I can sort of see
I see the teeth. Yeah, I see the teeth there. I love Married with Children. By the way, it's one of my all-time favorites. That's a classic show for me. But yeah, Silver Spoon's like, if I'm being real, like this is like some niche type stuff. Like you got to be a certain creature who loves a certain type of American television from a certain time period to like go 116 episodes deep.
Well, I am.
I'll give it the props. Yeah, I'll give it the props.
I just saw an episode where the grandfather wants to go hunting with Ricky, and they actually did a warning before the episode where the actor who plays Edward Stratton, the father, says, "Hey, might want to watch this with your family. There's some heavy stuff in this episode." That's all he said. It like one of those special messages in the 80s. So the grandfather takes Ricky. Ricky wants to go hunting. His dad's against it. He says, "Hey, make your own decisions." Which is one of the reasons why I like the show, because the father is like an idolized version of a good father, where it's like, hey, he's rich, but he gives your child like a lot of rope to make your own mistakes, sort of thing.
Exactly.
And doesn't overly punish him. He punishes him like to the extent he should.
Because he says his thing is, I want you to be a child. So he's like, yeah, that's kind of his thing. Yeah.
So he goes hunting with his grandfather. They actually got a real deer on set. And the grandma's like, oh, shoot the deer. Ricky raises the rifle, then lowers it, and then raises it. Shoots the deer, who somehow they said in the show that no deer was harmed. They must have drugged the deer, because the deer is like, they put a blood splotch on the deer, but the deer's not dead. The deer is like moving its head and looking around. And the grandfather goes, we have to put the deer out of its misery. Ricky like starts crying and refuses to, runs to the other side of the set with the father who's hugging him. The grandfather off screen, you hear the gun go off. The grandfather shoots the deer. And I'm like, holy shit. And Ricky's crying. And again, Ricky Schroeder did a great job acting. I think there's like real tears. And the father's like, hey, you did it. You had to go through. I made you make your decision. And Ricky's like, I'm glad I did it, but this is not for me, sort of thing. And I'm like, they didn't say hunting was wrong. They didn't say guns are bad. They just showed a kid making a decision.
They just said, there's a life here. Yeah.
And it forced you not to look away. Like, hey, if you're going to kill a deer, this is a shit you're going to have to do if you're an adult or a child. You're going to have to look the deer in the eye and finish it off, potentially. And I'm like, that again, that's some fucking balls on a sitcom around a 12-year-old.
Right.
That's like, I have a lot of respect now for Silver Spoons. I'm a Silver Spoons stan now.
You're all in. It's second only to Highlander, the TV series.
I'm not done yet because remember Derek, Jason Bateman's character, they wrote off the show.
Right.
So they allude to Jason's father, Derek's father being a philanderer. He says, "Oh yeah, my father. I blackmailed him. I found I knew he was staying at a hotel with some woman. It's played for laughs,
right? That
he's cheating on his mom, and his mom shows up in a couple episodes, so it kind of humanizes it,
right?
So an episode, it was like 2/3 through the second season. I guess the producers didn't want him on the show anymore, but they wrote him off. They didn't have to, but he was like basically like a secondary star. He wasn't in the credits, but it's like okay, he's on every other episode. He gets a ton of laughs. Jason Bateman is an excellent actor, even as a 12-year-old there.
He always crushes it. Yeah.
So the premise of that episode is, hey, my father got caught cheating on my mom again, and he was going to therapy for it, and it didn't work. And now mom is moving us away to St. Louis. And so it's like, holy shit. And so like you have to confront the fact that, hey, some children I grew up with families.
That's what happens.
Like, this could occur. And it's like, again, tear in my eye, just like the Charles in Charge episode where the younger son has to say goodbye to Charles. Tear in my eye, seeing like these two friends that, they give each other shit, but they're friends having to say goodbye. And in real life, these are two actors who actually liked each other.
And don't get to hang out anymore. Yeah.
That couldn't hang out in the back lot anymore, having to say goodbye. And it's like, okay, all right, Silver Spoons. I'm not going to give you shit anymore as just some weird, fantastical sitcom here.
Give it a go. Yeah, you got to give it a go.
Jason Bateman went from that to another sitcom that he starred in called It's Your Move that came out about a year after the show. He was off the show. And that was, which one of the two? Michael Moore or Ron Levitt was a showrunner of that. And he starred in that as like a beginning high schooler that was like more sleazy and like was running schemes like Zach Morris would do later on.
Yeah.
At Saved by the Bell. That only lasted a year, but it also starred David Garrison, who became Stephen Rhodes on Married with Children. So you can see like the connecting
teenage Steve.
It was adult Steve.
Yeah, but I mean,
Steve
like
Rhodes.
in It's Your Move or whatever that show is called.
Yeah, he's still an adult.
Okay. So he's
Jason
not.
Bateman was a teen.
Okay, so he's still older than Jason Bateman on the show.
Yeah, because Married with Children was only a year after that or so.
Right,
86 was Married with Children. So you can see the through lines between Silver Spoons, It's Your Move, into Married with Children. Like there's like a connective tissue between that.
Big time. And the trashiness kind of is part of it in a fun way too. Like even in that first episode of Silver Spoons, there's the one guy, Picardo, the fucking doctor from Voyager, who is just like he's just like that he's like he could be a character from Married with Children. A little over
the top.
He just could be a character from Married with Children.
Well, the first season of Married with Children was not unrealistic.
Yeah, not as grimy as the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, once you get into season 2, definitely by season 3, the show gets more, we'll just say, fantastic.
Once his name replaces Steve, that's
Jefferson in season 5. Well, at that point, it's off the rails.
Once Jefferson is there, we're in just pure crazy town.
Yeah, the show sort of peaks in season 5. After that, it's still good, but then it goes diminishing returns. But anyway, yeah. So I'm a Silver Spoon stan, and my role in the show is to get you to watch all this extra media you don't have time to watch.
Just forgotten, like the video store dregs type shows.
It's not dregs. To me, it's the 80s stuff. I go back and I fall asleep watching Golden Girls. It's
Golden Girls is not the dregs.
Silver Spoons is not the dregs. Like I said, it's a good show.
I'm just saying, in terms of how it played out, people don't really talk about Silver Spoons as much as they talk about Golden Girls these days.
Well, no, because it was a show centered around a kid.
Right. But you know what? It's fun. And I appreciate people like you're kind of focused a decade or so later than I am usually in my obsession with American culture. I'm
an old asshole. So I grew up I'm an 80s child.
But like outside of my own lifetime, I kind of gravitate towards the 60s and 70s more, but that same exact impulse is driving you, and I see it and I respect it.
And I wonder if obviously the people love the show because it's like every child's, again, fantasy was like, hey, I'm going to live in a house as a train and arcade games. There's 4 arcade games in the first season.
I love when he's trying to tell his kid,
Pac-Man, Tempest, Asteroids, and Gorf.
And Space Frog that they made up. That has its own.
Yeah, by midway through the season, like, okay, Midway might be getting pissed off with Pac-Man being there, so they put Swamp Wars on the header of Pac-Man. By season 2, Pac-Man's gone, and they have a Dragon's Lair instead.
That's pretty cool.
Which is nice.
Not a great arcade machine, but a cool arcade machine.
All right, you're gonna have people come up to you in the comments about that.
I don't care.
Talk to Ian about Dragon's Lair like that.
It's cool. It's cool. It's okay. Like we can get into it. I would play Pac-Man a million times before I played waste a quarter in Dragon's Lair. You have to master Dragon's Lair to play it. Like
it's original quick time event. Watch Video Game Years 1983.
Yeah, you kind of have to know how to do it before you should spend money. It doesn't matter. The point is, we're all old and you don't remember any of this.
All right, everyone out there, go watch a few episodes of Silver Spoons.
At least go to the Norman Lear YouTube channel
pilot's on
to
YouTube.
The pilot.
They also got rid of the original assistant. He was gone by like midway through season 2. They're replacing him with Mr. Stuffins.
That sounds gross.
Because he was more aristocrat. He was more. I'm Mr. Stuffins. I'm Mr. Stuffins. I have an almost English accent, but I was just raised in boarding schools, and I'm the proper. So, like the original lawyer character, he's too normal for a sitcom like this. It's like he doesn't have a
more like Jeffrey from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air than this guy.
Yeah, so the original assistant to the father is like he's not a bad character, but for sitcoms you need like he's
not wacky. Yeah.
He doesn't swing in those directions enough. He's just like an everyman character. So they got rid of him and got by the end of the first season they have Mr. Stuffins, the financial planner, and he's very hoity-toity and
Just so like basically like a rewrite of the same character. Basically,
shenanigans ensue when they go out camping, for example.
Oh, I don't do these things. I'm so stuffy, Mr. Stuffins.
Yeah, Mr. Stuffins. And he's a good character actor, like they all are. And then like I said, this is my life now. I'm gonna start watching these until I stroke out. All these 80s shows.
A scholar of forgotten television that sounds like there is a napkin over the speaker when you play it.
I'll do a Silver Spoons podcast. Anyone out there have one? I'll be a guest at least. I mean, there was an episode I just watched a few days ago where the father is beating the hell out of his kid. And it's one of those things where
Edward is beating the hell out of Ricky?
No, another father is beating the hell out of one of Ricky's friends. Like I'm talking black and blue marks on his face.
That's crazy.
And the father confronts the abuser, and it's not an easy thing to watch because it went from the father being angry to realizing, hey, I'm doing this maybe because my father beat me, and like the father's explaining that to the abusive father and like trying to get him help, and I'm like,
classic after school special fare.
Yeah, but done in a better way than you thought for a fucking sitcom.
It's got some grit. It's got some grit. Those silver spoons. They may be silver, but they're very much spoons.
They're a little tarnished. Those silver spoons.
Yeah, there's a little edge to those spoons.
And Ricky's an asshole in some episodes. He's
an asshole right away. Yeah, he pretends to be a dumb bumpkin like immediately. He like tricks adults with ease right away.
Yeah. Then the mom comes in and wants to take the son away. There's some good drama.
Okay.
All right. What do we learn today in the podcast, Alex?
We learned that brain damage is a real concern. No, I'm just kidding. What we need to do is we need to stop looking at two sides of a coin and start talking to people about things that are going to matter to them and convince them to come online and take the reins of their lives. That's what we need to do.
What we learned today is that Jubilee is detrimental to the Republic.
Yeah,
that's what we learned.
Jubilee is the most passive way that you can argue with somebody about politics. You're a loser if you think that you're doing anything by watching Jubilee.
Alex, these are supposed to be sound bites. These are supposed to be quick ones. What we learned today?
Jubilee sucks. Don't watch. Turn off YouTube in general. What else?
We learned that Jason Bateman should not have been forced off of Silver Spoons because of the producers and maybe Ricky Schroeder's parents.
We learned that me and Pat would both probably be more well off financially if Pat had just hunkered down and done 150 episodes of Flea Market Madness instead of 50.
We learned that Pat should have been Mr. Flea Market Madness, like Mr. Beast. I would have been just as big by now.
He would have had. You know what? I guarantee if Pat was selling Lunchables right now, they wouldn't be moldy.
If I was selling crypto and Lunchable ripoffs, they would be quality ones. Damn it.
Yeah.
What else we learned? We learned that
we learned a new word. We learned sophistry.
Oh, I knew the word, and you did too.
I'm talking about for the audience, for Sesame Street purposes. We learned about a new word.
I swear, this is why this is a decent podcast. I almost put the definition of sophistry in our prep document. I swear to God,
Yeah.
Because I knew like this is sophistry, and you brought it up.
It's
So I was
actually
like,
it's actually there now that I'm looking at it, which is
oh, it
hilarious.
is. Then
Yeah.
did you cheat and see it?
No, I don't even think it was there when I pulled up the article. So I think that's so funny.
Oh, I did put it there. I
Yeah.
put the definition at the end. I didn't realize. I forgot I put it there.
But
you
that
didn't
is-
see it. You didn't see it.
No,
You're
look,
being honest.
like I studied English in college. We talk about rhetoric and discourse, and this type of stuff is just like the most common type of shit you'll ever see.
We learned that Alex is uncaring when a voice actor of a beloved cartoon dies.
No, I'm not uncaring. I think
what?
Pat just doesn't understand what fandom is and can't see his
What?
own clown makeup on his face when he too is covered in the clown makeup. That's what it is. We all love
I love the cartoon more than the comic book, but that's all the conversation.
the comic book is great. Larry Hama is a god. He wrote a lot of X-Men as well. You know,
Of course he did.
yeah, he did.
Got to make it about you and X-Men.
It's about all of it. It's about both of us. We're both on the show. We're both hosts.
Got to make it about you. What else did we learn? We learned that Pat's a good jingle writer, and it's not arrogant if it's true.
It's not arrogant if it's true. That's what I should have said right away.
All right. Any other closing thoughts, Alex? This has been fun.
I got nothing. I feel great. I feel like I've said everything that I wanted to say this week. You know what? I hope that you guys out there feel similar. I hope you guys feel this satisfied when you finish the end of the show.
And we learned that Alex is better at Pat than reading the links in the document that I send him. So we learned that. So
Hey, at least somebody, like now we know. Now we have that info.
all right. Thank you, Scientific American article by what's her name?
Good night,
I gotta give
Moon.
it- I'll put the link in there.
Good night, Mouse. By the
Lydia
corner of the
Denworth.
stair.
Thank you, Lydia Denworth, for having Alex read you out loud here.
Lydia. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you later, everyone. We'll see you before Christmas.
Happy holidays.